full height and celebrate this champion team that has delivered you your 10th premiership.
Step onto the field. I'm Patrick Dangerfield.
And I'm Josh Jenkins. Pat. We are Geelong, the oldest team of all. And for those watching, we are Geelong, the 2022 Premiers. Congratulations. You must be absolutely over the moon.
Over the moon, Josh. Yeah, it's been a heck of a few days, as you well know. You've been a part of it. And, yeah, it's hard to describe that feeling when played for footy for a really long period of time and to finally succeed on the final day in September and fulfill, a dream that you don't really appreciate at the start of your career. It's not until the journey, gets a little long in the tooth and you stare your footballing mortality in the eye with the fact that it may not happen. But to achieve it as we have this season in the manner that we did, it was just, it was so special.
No, it was. Now, take us through it, the day, the win, basically everything. Have you ever played in a game that went more perfect for your football team?
I don't think I have. And to be honest, and you've been a part of these conversations, but it just felt throughout, the last 8 weeks, once we got on this roll, that we were playing some really good footy and we were having quarters where we'd kick 6, 7, 8 goals. But we hadn't done it for an entire game yet. So we'd have really incredible patches. And it just felt like we were building the whole time. And then we had that tough first game against Collingwood. There's always going to be one final that's going to be tough and you've just got to find a way to win. So we were fortunate enough and lucky enough to be able to do that. Game could have gone either way. And then from then on, it was like the little jolt that the team needed because we'd been rolling for a long period of time. And then from the prelim and into the grand final, we played a phenomenal game in the prelim. And then, to be honest, I think we played just about, as good a game as we could have ever possibly hoped to have played in the grand final.
Was it now we'll get to a few other individuals, but was it your best game of the season individually? 27 disposals, some phenomenal numbers here. 27 disposals, 13 score involvements, six. I need to go back through the tape. 6 goal assists, 4 tackles, 9 clearances, and 7 inside 50. Did you save the best till last?
It was great to bloody contribute, mate, to be honest.
Don't you dare.
No, it was. Like I've said in a few interviews.
Was it your best performance of the season?
Oh, the prelim was pretty good.
There he is.
There he is. Look, I said in a couple of interviews, if I had one possession and we won, like I would have been stoked. And that's true. But it is really fulfilling to have contributed. And the game, to be honest, it was reflective of our season in a sense that everyone had their moments at different stages, every single player in the team. And you and I were talking post-grand final about Brad Close. Rewatch the game.
Yeah.
Watch his game as a half forward, small half forward, phenomenal. Yeah. But that same story, it flows on through the entire team. Like rewatch the game, and you can't do this because we only have access to this vision as a club. But if you rewatch the game in the bird's eye view, so the third camera essentially, and you watch Gary Rohan's game, it was interesting to see the reviews of it, like a few of the media on his game, and they marked it harshly. Rewatch it how an AFL team would. His game is amazing because he plays against essentially Sydney's extra number in defence for the entire game and limits his impact, limits that player marking the ball, providing any real drive. In a footballing sense, and this is why when you ask teams about, who are the unsung heroes, well, he's one for us because he played a role that was bloody difficult against a third man constantly, or seventh defender, and it's one of the best ways to play him. His game, playing against despairing defence, one of the best ways to play him. Fills a role, does what we need him to do, and that echoes through the whole 23.
Yeah, I don't think there weren't many who didn't have a very solid contribution. Brandon Parfitt he strolls onto the field and kicks a goal within a minute. Sam De Koning kicks his first goal. That was definitely going to miss, Pat. I don't know what your angle was.
No, that was going through and
through the behinds. I spoke to Sam. Sam and I have got a good relationship. We spent a lot of time together last year when he wasn't in the AFL team.
You're very happy with yorsself because you called Sam at the start of the year. Like this has not stopped through the whole season. You just high horsing yourself about I picked him from the beginning that he's going to be the game changer.
Well, I did. Yeah, it was in January that I said he could be out and out start. That's a quote. But he was, and we were having a bit of fun before the game. So before the finals, I said to him, "You're allowed to concede. I'm giving you 3 goals. 3 goals you can give up." And he gave up one
through the whole final series.
Yes, so just 3. He gave up one against Collingwood, against Myercheck. Of course, we got the week off. And then he didn't concede one against Joe Danaher. And in the grand final, he went back. He was out of position, and he gave away a free kick to Paddy McCartan. So that was 2. And then, but we'd also said, I said, if you kick one, that takes 2 off the board.
Get it back the other way.
He just dawdles on down, takes it upon himself. He was not supposed to be in the forward line, let alone in the goal square on the goal line. And he takes it upon himself to, oh, hello, this is a red Sharon. Through she goes. So he didn't concede on our metric system. He didn't concede a goal in September.
You're obviously spent the year as a coach watching from the bench. You've experienced a grand final before, all but a losing grand final. How were your emotions as an ex-player but now coach? Is it envy? Is it jealousy? You know, I'm not rubbing it in here. I'm just trying to delve into the emotions for you.
You've done enough of that, just dangling the medallion. I thought you might have had it just dangling across the screen.
No, went with a hat instead.
No, I was actually a little nervous. I was a little anxious that if things went our way, I would have a lot of jealousy or envy. I had none. Sure, there's moments where you think, I wish that was me standing up on the fence holding up the cup. But I had an overwhelming sense of happiness for the group. And I've only been involved at Geelong for 3 years. You've been there much longer. But, and some people, maybe you don't get your back up, but, you hear the commentary around you're too old, you don't play the way you need to. Your game style doesn't stack up when it matters. Even being there 3 years and being in the media this year, for sure, hearing that a lot more, I wanted us to win because we, in a sense, I felt like we deserved to win because of the way the club goes about it, the consistent opportunities that the club presents players to play in big games and potentially win a premiership. So my overwhelming feeling was happiness. Do I wish I was a part of the 23? Of course. But in my role, I was just proud and happy to be there, albeit, Pat, I was petrified to touch the cup.
Why?
I didn't touch the cup until Sunday afternoon, and I didn't grab it. I just it was sitting at a table in front of me. Someone poured a glass of Grange in it, and proceeded to scull it. And
our mate Rids.
Yes, Benny Riddle brought about $7,000 worth of wine down, and you, Chris, Mark Blitzarves, Sean Higgins, and a couple of others proceeded to drink it in about 10 minutes.
Hang on, can we refer to Chris as his proper name, the Magnet? Because the decent bottles of wine come out and the Magnet he can sniff it from a mile away.
Some say Chris is not the most outgoing social person. Well, if you've got just grab it, go down and buy a bottle of Grange, and all of a sudden he'll be like Ryan Crowley. You won't be able to get rid of him. But that was the first time I just touched the arm of the cup. I don't know what it was. I just felt a bit awkward to just grab it and act as if it was mine. But that's not to say I wasn't proud. I was proud to be. I was thrilled to be involved. I felt quite privileged to be involved. A couple more. I want to ask you a couple more before we talk a little bit about some other things. And we're going to get to Joel Selwood, who, of course, retired today. We're sitting here on a Wednesday night. He retired officially today. I want to, at what stage, now, of course, with, you know, not being disrespectful, but at what stage did you look up, did you think, the way this game is going, we're going to win the premiership?
I was really nervous going in at halftime, having been not in a similar position, but a few goals up against Richmond in 2020. And then for them to come out and really blitz us in that third quarter. So we're 36 points up at halftime, and we come in as a midfield group, and all we're talking about is the moment and the first 5 minutes and locking the ball in, because we can't afford to give up a score and give them a sniff. And I was nervous. If we give up a couple of goals, it's a 24-point margin all of a sudden, and they're feeling it. So we would it was eyes on the prize around that. So the third quarter starts and we're just on. The pressure around the ball, it's just on. And all of a sudden we score 3 goals in the first, 5-6 minutes. And it's at that stage, I'm like, all of a sudden the margin hits 42, 48, 54. And I'm like, well, we can't lose this. We're not going to lose in this position. Everyone's on. And I think the pressure index that quarter was like 2.2, which is significant.
It's high. No one knows how to measure it, but they just believe us. It's high. It's as high as it gets. I sit in a very privileged position because I have a headset on, similar to the one I'm wearing now. So I hear everything that goes on in the coach's box, everything that goes on the bench, and I'm watching the game intently. And I've also got access to instant replay, so I can just go and watch a replay. Why did that happen? And I can go back and watch it, or I can, the reason I have the replay is to show you guys when you come to the bench. So I feel. So
what's the coach? What's the feel in the box in that third quarter there?
Oh, it's even earlier than that. I think coaches, they often, and having sat there and you listen to the coaches all the way through each game, often the first thing that they speak about is who does the game look like it suits more. So not necessarily what is the scoreboard. It's, does this look like a Geelong game or does it look like a Sydney game? And early on, it looked like a Geelong game, and it stayed in that space for a long time. So, and that's what I'm saying. Where I sit, I'm not emotional because I'm not in the box and I'm not necessarily the one having to pull the levers, but I'm still watching it intently. So really early on, I'm not going to say in the first quarter I thought we were going to win, but it's one of the few games I've ever been involved in, played or watched, where I think Sydney had a 5-minute patch in the second quarter where it looked like they were going to get a bit of a run late in the second quarter when we were trying to save some rotations. But I don't think I've ever been involved in a game where almost every single thing went right. There were set shots that were missing and they found a way to go through. It felt like every ball that was hacked forward by you midfielders landed in the lap of forwards. Sydney players slipped over. It was just one of those days. It felt like a little bit of divine intervention, Pat, if you believe in that sort of thing.
The footy gods, perhaps.
It was an amazing day, and it started with Joel and Levi Ablett, and we'll speak about that a little bit later on. But it was just one of those days, Pat. Last one before we move off. How the days since, Saturday night, presented on stage outside the MCG, a bus ride home with just the players and the coach, Sunday with the kids and the family and the fans. Just talk us through what it's been like since.
It's a big few days. It's a really big few days, especially early on, because you have the family day on Sunday. So, St. Mary's and the Ovals are just absolutely packed with thousands of people. Parade on Tuesday. Had obviously our wacky Mad Monday, which you're going to get to a little bit later. To have that and to share it with the community was brilliant, because we don't exist if it isn't for the support that you get, especially during COVID, when no one can go and see a bloody game and they're still forking out there $400-500 for a ticket. What that provides as a club, immeasurable. In that in that, incredibly difficult period. So it's one for the members for mine, but I'd love just to quickly touch on, like, you spoke about the oldest team of all, there's a lot of experienced players. But for me, so much of the success for the club this season has been the attitude of those older players that actually didn't get the opportunity to play, but were so incredible with just how selfless they've been, and without individualizing too much. Sammy Menegola, deserves the spot, but just unable to get in the team. Knee buggers up at the wrong time. But Sean Higgins, people would look at that in isolation and go, "Oh, well, it didn't work because he came and he didn't play." They won a flag, but it didn't work. He, to me, he's an incredible person first and foremost, but he's having known him a little bit, but then comes to the club. He's only enhanced his reputation with me like enormously, because the work that he's done, as you would know, as a development coach with our younger players, his attitude when not playing, and then his guidance in the VFL to those around the peripheral, he's going to make an incredible coach one day. And whether he goes straight into it or takes his time, it's people like Sean that make really strong football clubs and has contributed so much to us in his short time at the place. And, joins in the celebrations the whole time, is nothing but happy for everyone there. And no doubt that'd be bloody tough. I mean, he's played 260 odd games and just misses out on the team, yet still, celebrates and genuinely enjoys it with everyone. Strong cultures are built on people like Sean with attitudes like that. So shout out to Sean, because that's what all footy clubs need. They need people like that.
Yeah, indeed. It's a good point, and it's a beautiful segue. And I was really glad I saw on Friday Josh Kennedy of the Swans came out and said he was of the view all players deserve the Premiership Medal. Now, this has been a story that's sort of kicked around for a while. It comes up at this time every year. And I've got a view now. I still don't really know where I land. I definitely think that more people need to be acknowledged than just the players who play on the day. Because I'll provide my view first, and then I'll hand it over to you. I think now people who knock the idea of other players getting a medal, my counterpoint to that is, if you came down to Geelong training, now we won it this year, so I'll reference the Cats. If you came down and you watched our VFL listed players, or our VFL players who weren't playing, if you watch them pretend to be Collingwood for a week, and then pretend to be Brisbane for a week, and then pretend to be Sydney for a week, ultimately sacrificing their own development, coming in every day, pretending to be happy or being happy when deep down there's a little part of their guts that thinks, geez, I wish I was involved, you would have a different point of view. Now,
Cooper Stevens, so yeah. I think Coops is in his third or fourth year.
Third, yeah.
Every main training for the last month, he's asked me, who do you want me to play like? How do they play it? So last week, he's asking me about Parker and Mills. He goes, do you think you'll get them? I'm like, yeah, I think so. How do they play? So he goes through the tape with me. We're talking about it. And then he plays that way at training for all the match sin. Like, that's a kid in his third year, a first-round draft pick. We all know kids now, they're very impatient. Yeah. And he's asking me, I'm going to train like this. How do you want me to train it? And how can I help you? I've been around for a long time. How can I help you, achieve what you've always set out to achieve? So he deserves one.
So where do you land? Are you the entire list? Are you anyone who plays a final? Do you have to play 10 games, 5 games, 15? Where do you land on this? Or are you in the camp that says only the players on the day get one?
No, I think you just have to play. So you have to have played a game that season. You play a game that season, then you have contributed to the success of the team. I don't know if you could find any player that has an opposition to this. There'll be some that say, oh, it just doesn't feel like it. But that's only because that's how we've done it so far throughout the history of our game. You do it, you just bring it in, And within 5 years, I think players would have a real understanding and ownership of the fact that, no, I did contribute to it. Because it whether you like it or not, it separates, and it shouldn't separate. It should unify, because that's what premierships are about, the collective.
I'm probably with you've probably swayed me, to be honest. I was sort of thinking, 5 games or, but I think if you've played, I think I'd nearly go.
You've contributed though. You have.
Yeah. I would say if you chose everyone who'd played one or more, then you risk marginalising those who don't. So what about this, Pat? What about everyone gets one, but if you play your label in your CV and your honours, you're a premiership player, but if you don't play, you are a part of the 2022 premiership squad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little funnier around that, simply because, and this is nothing against your first and second year players, but you can have someone that hasn't been in the building for all that long, having not played, that may be moved on after a couple of years. Because you don't really know the kids until they get there.
Yes.
Like I think if you've played a game, then you've earned the right.
What if Gold Coast won the premiership and Ben King didn't play a game?
Yeah, well, that's tougher because you've got someone there that is, integral to the fabric of not only the building but the playing.
Sam Simpson in our
Sam Simpson for us is a great example. Yeah. It would be so difficult. You stumped me on Sam Simpson. I don't know then. I don't know.
All right. But we both agree that more than just the playing 23 and the coach probably need formal acknowledgement, and good, good clubs will do that anyway. I'm sure the Cats have got something planned for those who didn't play, whether it's a group photo or whatever it is, just something that you can tangibly acknowledge and have at home. So that's the game and the grand final and the pre and post. What about something that was rather expensive, Pat, but everything that I've heard has been unbelievable. The man in pink, you were inside trying to catch a glimpse.
I'm flat about this.
Robbie Williams, apparently he cost, the number I've heard is 1.9 million. I don't know whether you've seen it back. It's going to be hard for you to give much of a view if you haven't. But overall, everyone seems to have been happy with Robbie Williams.
Yeah, I actually, funnily enough, I rewatched it today.
I thought you would have.
Goes for 20 minutes on YouTube for anyone that hasn't seen it. And he is electrifying. Now, I love Robbie Williams anyway, and my greatest fear on this game was if we lose, it is going to destroy one of my favourite artists. I actually said to Gil, we ran into him at the...
That's Gil at McLaughlin, for those of us who don't have a friendship with Gil.
I ran into him at the Gilligan's Island boat cruise earlier in the day, and I said, or the day before, I said, if we win it, can you tee up a photo? And then I forgot about it afterwards. I was caught up in the celebratory celebrations, but loved it. And if you work it, say we paid him, the AFL's paid him $2 million. That's $20 a ticket because there's 100,000 people there. He is worth every cent. And I hope now, because we have a funny thing about this as Australians, it's like, you can't pay for that. Australian talent. But yeah, it's great to have Australian talent, but he's one of the biggest rock stars in the world. So I hope that next year's grand final, we do something similar. We spend another couple of $1 million on someone wonderful, because the game deserves it. The entertainment factor deserves it. The irony of him covering one of Australia's great artists in John Farnham wasn't lost on me, because we did spend a couple of $1 million for him to sing a John Farnham song, but I still liked it, Josh. I still liked it.
I thought he was fantastic. A funny story as well, Pat. Now,
this is great.
Yeah. I was going to say, I didn't know whether you even knew this story. So in the players' sort of pre-game so the pre-game warm-up on ground gets done. I go out, don't do much, just be there in case you guys want to have a kick or do whatever. Then you guys go in, and that's an extended break on grand final day. Normally, it's a very short sort of break, and then you start your indoor warm-up. But on grand final day, clearly it's a lot longer. So I thought, well, I'm in the road here. The players are just walking around. I'm just going to get out of the road. I'm going to go up the race and watch a bit of Robbie Williams. Why not? So I'm standing at the top of the race watching Robbie. He's just started, I think. And I see our operations manager, Simon Murphy, come charging up the race, almost gives me a little shoulder on the way through. And I'm, geez, he's in a hurry. He goes to...
Had a great week, Smurf.
He did. He was fantastic.
Very organised.
Shout out to the great man. Hopefully he can enjoy some NFL. Now he's got a bit of a break. But he went over the fence, and he was yelling loudly. Now, clearly, I can't hear a thing because Robbie Williams is playing in the background. He's yelling, and he's very demonstrative, and
You're listening to Angels.
He's barking instructions. And then I see our entire physio, masseuse team.
Not the entire physio team, because Luke Leiter, head physio, he was running up there as well, looking for a bit of help.
All of our water boys and girls were just perched up, seated on the MCG on the other side of the fence, just sitting back, catching a little bit of Robbie. All the players are inside looking for a massage.
Not only that, Reece Stanley is getting his calves massaged by Benny Eason, who is our property manager. So this is dead set. This is not Ben's job. And on grand final day, pre-game, he's there rubbing Reece's calf, thinking, what the heck am I doing here?
Oh, it was incredible stuff. I mean, had the result gone the other way, I'm not sure how funny the story would have been, but it was a funny story at the time. And I couldn't stop. I tried to, when they ran past, I had to like pretend I wasn't laughing, because I thought it was hilarious that they were getting sprayed just because they were desperate to see Robbie.
I think it's fair. It's Robbie Williams. When else are you going to see him?
Well, that's true. I mean, he's only had about 3,000 concerts over his career. Pat, let's go to Mirror on the Media. Now,
oh, yes.
After the grand final, back in the change rooms. Now, the change rooms is a sacred place for the players, but we know on grand final day, it's a bit of a free-for-all. Family, friends, everyone.
Don't feel like there was a lot of rat testing, Josh. Don't feel like there was a huge amount of COVID testing.
There was certainly no 1.5 meters happening in the change rooms. There were people everywhere. Now, I want to call out the media here. Now, I am a part of the media, but on the day, I had my AFL football department lanyard on. So I'm
nice.
But
yes,
aside from me, I saw 4 other SEN, Sports Entertainment Network employees, among the hundreds of media that were in the rooms. Now, I'm calling out 4 representatives from SEN. I think one would suffice, one microphone going around to all the players getting interviews. Now, I'm calling them out. Joel Brooks, your man, who looks after your fishing show. Joel,
we had a good hug in there, JB and I.
Was in there. Now, he doesn't take up much room, because if he turned side on, you wouldn't be able to see him. Matthew Cox, who is the breakfast assistant producer on the breakfast show with Gary and Tim. He's a good man, but he was
assisting Joel. Go on.
He was unneeded. Sam Hargraves, who was wearing a Peaky Blinders hat as well, which was hitting people in the face when he was turning around. He didn't need to be in there. And then out of all of them, Pat, the 2 I see, the Robin to Jared Waitley's Batman. I bumped into this man, and I'm speaking of Anthony Hudson, Mr. 13. I bumped into him, and I said, "What are you doing down here? You're not a boundary rider." And he said, "Mate, I just want to be amongst it," because he's a big Cats fan. So Anthony Hudson, not working, had finished his commentary duties upstairs, just genuine fanboy style in there. So 3 of those 4. And I'm one of
the great calls, Josh.
Get out.
If you wouldn't want to be supporting anyone other than Geelong, because they were disgraceful if you supported any other team. But Anthony Hudson and Jared Waitley's call of the game,
hugging him.
It was. I think after quarter time, they threw out the the notion of this is a call for all, and it was, you know what, this is a call for cats today, and we're just going to let rip.
Yeah, and I think the listeners, those who have watched the video, have provided such feedback. But Hudson,
it's a grand final, and we're in good nick.
Get out of there. And there was a few others in there who escaped our wrath too, because don't worry, there was some curly behaviour from our friendly members of the media in the change rooms. Let's just say our allotment of alcohol was swiftly handled by members of the media, Pat, and we'll just leave it right there when it comes to Mirror on the media.
Well, I'm not going to name them, but I did do an interview after the game, a couple of them, with journalists.
Oh, no.
And I'm not sure how professional it is to conduct an interview with your dictaphone in one hand and a Carlton draft in the other. And no two ways about just enjoying every second of it. There's a dictaphone there and just the Carlton draft, just away we go. Jeremy Cameron salts.
Now that's the grand final. I just want to quickly touch on trade radio because I'm doing trade radio. So the grand final finishes at 5:30 on Saturday. Monday morning, 6 a.m. Lloydie and Kane Corns, Lordo and the Volcano into it. Trade radio starts. I'm doing the 9 to 11 slot. Just a lightweight slot. Nothing heavy happening whilst I'm on air. But I want to mention it because it happens quickly.
You're like the daytime TV, aren't you? You kick off after Carl and Ellison and.
Yeah, we're the genuine pretenders. No, make no mistake about it. But it is a fun period of the year. You and I love it. And it's expected to be busy.
Yes.
And I was going to just skim over it, but fortunately, I just got a text from our very own list manager, Andrew Mackey, who has clearly caught wind of. Just relax. He's clearly caught wind of our discussion. So I was having a discussion yesterday with Andy Marr. And I was saying that Sam de Koning, I would pay Sam de Koning $1 million before I would pay Nick Dacos $1 million.
What are you doing?
Now,
what to keep the cap in shape.
Mackey's just
we have to keep the cap in shape.
And said, go easy on the de Koning for $1 million calls with the side eyes emoji. So he's not happy with my work early days, but it's fun this time of year. I've been tasked with doing the mega trade each morning. I don't know whether you've seen these on.
I have, because this is a time of the year where every team can win the grand final. Every team can have a good day and a good week. And depending on how you sell it, like I love you have the trades and then the analysis, and it's like, X team, they've nailed this. Nailed this out of the park. And then 3 years later, you find out that, 2 of the 3 have been listed. And
yes.
That's the beauty of it. You're selling hope to all of us. And that's players included. Players are listening to trade radio. Make no bones about that. It's a fascinating time of the year. It's going to be far more exciting this year than it was the previous. I'm happy. I think they're doing another Amazon doco on this.
They are. I saw the cameras in there. They followed Colin Young in there. Colin Young was in there at 7:01 Monday morning with the cameras behind him. So they are doing another doco, and it should be a lot. You're right. It should be a lot more exciting this year. There are at least 40 or 50 names who have been legitimately thrown up as trade targets and options. So it'll be good fun, Pat. It'll be good fun for those involved. It's hard work keeping up with things because the listeners like to catch you out on mistakes, and I've made a couple of blunders already. But
there's a lot happening, so that's part of it.
It is good fun. So that's the trade period. We're going to get through quickly Joe the Goose of the West. Sorry, we're going to give 3 votes. And how could I? Yes. I almost overlooked a man almost more important than the 2022 Premiership for what he's done in the game. Your captain, Joel Selwood, the 4-time Premiership player, the Premiership captain. If I read out his accolades, I'd be here all night. My computer battery would run flat. But he's called time on his career. Just tell us, he mentioned you, he referenced you in the press conference. Tell us about, or take us inside the conversation that he and you had when he told you that he was done.
It was very emotional for me anyway, since coming to the club. Like his impact on me as a player, I'm a 10 times better player. I'm a far better leader because of the guidance of him. Just me personally, what I've been able to get out of him. And that story is mirrored by everyone that knows Joel. So everyone has their own stories on the impact that he has had on them individually and why he has made them a better person in a football sense and in a personable and selfless sense. And that's why he is so well revered in the Geelong community. He's superhuman in his selflessness and how he just looks for others constantly. Like where others would just brush over, he's thinking of that person that you just walked past that you didn't talk to, that was too scared to come up and talk to you, or whatever it might be. And he sensed that and he just went there. You know, he's in so many ways. And people will say, well, you cannot, there's always another player that will come in. And there will be. There'll be a new number 14.
Yep.
But he is irreplaceable in that sense. What he's built around this club, it is the players that are still there. It's their duty to try and sustain it, but to do it with the level of care and empathy that he has for the time that he's been in the game, I'm not sure it's possible, to be honest. He's a unicorn. Forever thankful for what he's done for me, but more importantly, what he's done for the footy club. You know, what a wonderful person, and how fitting that he's sent off as a premiership captain. You know, I've always really considered him one without the title, and now he really has everything else, and he's thoroughly deserving of that.
That he is. He was my most disliked opponent. Not that we played, head to head, but just the way he goes about it, how ferocious he is. He gave a player a spray. We were doing in the pre-game warm-ups. You might see if you concentrate. One team does their centre bounce, techniques and reps, and then the other team gets their opportunity. And an opposition ruckman was staying back to do an extra jump. And on his way out of the centre bounce, when we were making our way in, Joel just gave him an absolute surf because he's just a ferocious competitor. So he's the most disliked player I've ever played against. But coming to the Cats and seeing what he's like firsthand, people often ask me, is he as good a person as he is made out to be? And the answer is yes, he actually is. And to your point, everything that we take for granted, he doesn't take for granted. He's an incredible person. He is amazing. And this is probably my favorite stat. I saw Swamp Thing and Joshua Kay, the two stats gurus, going at it. It was a Selwood stat off on Twitter just after he announced his retirement. And this was probably my favorite. So Joel Selwood played 355 AFL games. Only once in those 355 games did he go into a game with the knowledge that he mathematically could not win the premiership. And that was round 23, 2015, the only time the Cats missed the finals in his career. And the reason, and he's still dirty on this, not because of the circumstances, but because of the fact that you and I were playing for Adelaide at the time. We didn't play Geelong. We both played a game short. We split the points on the back of the Phil Walsh passing. So only once in 355 games was it mathematically impossible for that man to win a premiership. And Pat, I don't know how or why, but there would be somehow, if he knew that, not that he focuses on those things, he would have said, we would have found a way.
He would have. And I've got a strong feeling he had a big impact on the decision that it's not right to play, even though at the time their season's on the line. And that speaks to the person, it speaks to the club. And for everyone that knows him and knows him well, they're no doubt better people for that. So congratulations to the skipper. Been incredible.
He has.
It's a magnificent career.
Two last things before we move off the great man and move on to Joe the Goose of the week and then get out of here. Does the Joel Selwood, there's a new stand getting built at the Cattery. Does the Joel Selwood stand sound okay to you? You're not going to say no, but does that sound all right to you?
It does. There's going to be something renamed after him. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you're not going to save it for yourself, the Dangerfield stand.
I wouldn't have thought. No, I'm not sure what it is. A stand's appropriate. Absolutely. Like the guy, he just, when you ask people about him, they sort of stop and we sort of splutter along trying to fully explain what it is and articulate it. It's so bloody hard because he's that special. He's just, he's an extraordinary human being. He is one of a kind. Yeah. And it's going to be a gaping hole. But, such is the person. What a way to finish. Wasn't going to, play at 80% for him. He's either all in or it's nothing. And that sums him up. You step on the field and it is all in. But off the field, he might seem prickly externally if you're an opposition watcher or player or whatever. But I tell you what, he's so caring, so kind, humble. What a guy. What a person.
What a person indeed. Joel Selwood retires as the Premiership captain. All right, let's get on to the Joe the Goose of the week. And we're aiming this at the Outrage Army. And you can decide. Josh. You can have a look in our mirror on the media if you want. We'll give you the mirror to borrow and decide whether you are in or out of the Outrage Army. But the Outrage Army, these are the people who enjoy being outraged. They just love to be outraged. They have been critical of us critical of you guys for old people shaming. So this is the most ironic thing, Pat. Let me read this out and then you can have your right of reply. Now, I know you'll probably take the high ground, but so on the back of you guys dressing up as old people, it was reported that people on 3AW, I think it was, were ringing up saying you are making fun, mocking the elderly. Now, this is the ironic part. The ironic thing is, and I wrote this down, is Geelong players being ridiculed for ridiculing old people when they themselves have been ridiculed all season long for being
too old. Honestly, some people are just not happy unless they're offended. I've actually got one here as well. This was from 5AA. They were clearly putting out a stereotype. You can have a bit of fun, but you've also got to think about how you portray people. This is Ian Hench, National Seniors Australia.
Seriously.
Like, for God's sake, rest in peace, Ian's sense of humor. We're having fun. It was so great, though, because all of our elderly supporters at the Cattery, they came up getting signatures and photos, and they all just loved it. It was fun. It's meant to be in jest. My goodness, what sort of play? Like, there's some people that look up, and if it's sunny, they're not happy because they're going to get sunburnt. They look up, it's cloudy, and they're not happy because there's no sun out.
Yeah.
So there's no point wasting your time with those people. My goodness, it's just having a bit of fun, Josh.
It is, Pat. It is. But as you put it best, people aren't happy unless they're unhappy, and they'll find a way to do anything to be.
Have you had any?
Be grumpy.
Have you had any trade sort of chatter where you've just had to calm the farm with a few, where there's just been abuse? Like hurling everywhere. Like people need to understand that when you do sit and host trade radio and you're one of the callers, it's a long bloody time in the chair. So you've got to come up with different things, and you've got to come up with different things to talk about. And it's not a pot shot on X player or X team. It's just hypothesizing some of the, what may happen. And it's meant to be fun and enjoyable around how can your team get better.
It is. Well, I've taken Adam Cooney's seat for the week. So I'm responsible. Adam Cooney likes to do the mega trade, which involves, 3 or 4 teams and 6 or 7 players and picks. So I've taken that on. And I went a little off script, and I threw Jordan De Goey in and sent him to Sydney and did this and did that, and said Hawthorn would have to send Tom Mitchell to Collingwood but pay his salary. And people did get a little, there was a little bit of friction coming my way. Let's just say I'm still working my way through the Twitter mentions on the back of it. But I've taken this mantra all the way through my media work this year. I don't take myself or any of this stuff too seriously. So that's where that is, Pat. It's just a little bit of fun.
Hey, Josh, that wraps up our field grand final edition.
The Premiership Pod, I call it.
The Premiership Pod, but the pods keep on coming. We are well and truly into the NFL season at the moment. Aaron Rodgers, he's rubbish in round one, and he just tends to grow after that. Green Bay being very, very good. The season so far in 30 seconds, can you give it to us?
The Dolphins are surprising. The
Raiders?
Tom Brady, I feel like, now I'll use all 30 here. I feel like I could wake up one morning and see that Tom Brady has re-retired.
Really?
I just get the feeling that with everything that's going on, I might wake up one morning, grab Twitter and see that Tom Brady has said, nah, I made the right decision last time. When I retired, I shouldn't have come back, and I'm done. There's a bombshell to go on with Pat.
Well, okay. I'm going to leave it at that because there's nothing else that we can say.
All right. Make sure you follow us on socials. Make sure you jump onto thefieldau.com. All the normal and usual places to get a podcast. And Pat, the only fair thing now, firstly and lastly, congrats again, 2022 Premiership player. You've climbed Everest. You're driving Everest. There's nothing better. And it's only fitting that we end the show like this.
We are Geelong, the greatest team of all. We are Geelong, we're always on the ball. We play the game as it should be played, at home or far away. Our banners fly high from dawn to dark, down that sunny
All right, we're done.